aptly described in the following way. They're neither alive nor dead, yet both alive and dead at the same time. So they're neither wholly alive nor wholly dead, but they are both alive and dead at the same time. They're sort of occupy this very ambiguous status by our lights. And I should emphasize, I guess, the ambiguity is our problem. I'm not sure they think about things in terms of ambiguity. So there, I mean, you can also, and the enomics pretty much align with one another. Like hot aligns with male, cold aligns with female, wet aligns with female and cold, hot, dry align with male. So all these enomics end up sort of lining with one another. Gender is part of it, but it's not the whole part of it. And it turns out that everything is interrelated in these ways. And you and I are all interrelated. I can have, and things are very flux. I can have a match, for example, as a man of the house, I'm sort of a male related to my wife, who's a female, my female enamic. Let's see. If I'm from Tlaxcala and I'm a warrior who goes to battle with the Tenochtitlan, the Aztecs, I am now a female because the Aztecs view alien warriors as female. So I'm both male and female, male in my house, yet female vis-a-vis or relative to the Tenochtitlan warrior, the Mexica warrior, who I meet on the battlefield. So everything is ambiguous in this way, and everything, I can both be male and female at the same time, depending upon my particular match. And I'm interrelated with everything, so I'm sort of exhaustively defined in this way. Here's a picture from a pictoglyph from the Codex. My brain's not working. I can't remember the Codex. But here you have on your right, you have Quetzalcoatl. And on the left is Mictlantecutli, Lord of the Underworld, or Death God, if we want to talk about that. But I mean, Mictlan means death, and Tecutli just means Lord or honorable. So here you have life and death, and they're joined at the spine. And one of the words, if you go into Molina's dictionary, one of the uses of enomics is for two fields to come back to back and share a wall in common. So in this way, I think they're trying to, portray, depict, convey the idea of this agonistic enomic duality, that these things are linked together by the spine. They share a common backbone. Oftentimes they're depicted facing one another, and that's a very other common motif for depicting enomics, face to face. Husbands and wives are commonly depicted facing one another in the codices. Do I have any more of these? No. Okay, let's see. So at the very bottom, we've got the following are not included in these enomics. One, good and evil. So central to Western religion and metaphysics, this notion of good and evil, they're just not there. They're arranged things and they're malarranged things. They're ordered things and disordered things, but there is no such thing as goodness or evil as such. They're just not part of their worldview, their horizon. That's a big difference. Because, death isn't good and death isn't evil, right? Death is both good and bad, right? At least from a human point of view, we don't want to die, but also we need it because we got to eat. Okay, balance and imbalance aren't enomics. Balance is the tertium quid, like becoming, and it's between two imbalances. Balance is this dynamic notion, unlike, I think, at least one way of interpreting the Greek notion of the mean is that it's a static in the middle. If you think about hitting the right note, if you think about courage as being in between cowardice and foolhardiness, there's a sort of mathematically defined middle point which you try to hit. Or sharp note, flat note, you try to get the note right on. The Aztecs have this notion of a middle, but it's dynamically defined in keeping with the process metaphysics. And the balance is pretty much, I'm going to go out of listening range here. Think about how you walk or riding, think about riding a bike. You're always going like this, right? You're never just going like this. Nobody can ride a bike like that. You're always, a little that, and then if you go this way, you correct this way. When you swerve this way, you don't go straight up. You have to go this way. And so the balance that you get is this dynamic, diachronic achievement. They're going back like this and that. So it's like walking, which is the same thing. I mean, if you look at walking, you're going like this. You go, what? I'm out of balance, out of balance, out of balance, out of balance, out of balance. But the overall process is walking in balance. So this is going to be key, because if we ever get there, right, they have this notion of walking on the surface of the earth, and the key is to walk in balance. And the balance has to be this diachronic, dynamic process where you go this way, we all do, but then you correct by going this way. And we're always going like this through life, trying to maintain our balance on what they describe in the Florentine Codex as the very slippery earth. So center and periphery are not opposites or enamics. The center is the middle of the periphery, right? There are two peripheries and there's a center in the middle, just as there's non-being, being, and becoming, imbalance this way, and balance. And so, okay. Have I exhausted all of this? I think so. Aren't these masks lovely? I love them. These are all in the Museum of Anthropology in Mexico City. Okay, so we've got an agonistic enamic unity. These things are always going on. So, how's my time?
You have about 15 more.
Okay, we have three different sort of patterns of transformation. I say motion change because, like the Greeks, physical change in attributes is a kind of motion for the Aztecs. Right? Modern people, Westerners, think of motion as simply physical, a motion from one place to another. But if I change, get a haircut, do something, that is movement. That is motion. So I'm hyphenating those, turning it into motion change. And the cosmos is run by these three patterns. You got sacred energy and agonistic forces circulate throughout the cosmos in three principal ways. There's Olin, Malanali, and Nepantla. These constitute three different patterns or ways of ordering or kinds of motion change, becoming, processing, and a big blob there, transformation. And all transformation is creative, destructive, and destructive, creative. In order to transform, something is created, but something's always destroyed. And in destroying something, you're always creating something. They're not three different kinds of energies, they're just different ways of ordering energy. So the first one is called Olin. It's a 4-stage pulsating, undulating, oscillating, and centering motion. It's paradigmatically illustrated by the beating heart. Boom, 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 boom. It has 4 stages. It's this undulating. And the Olin comes from, is it Maya ole, from which Spanish oy, right, comes for rubber, and it comes from the sap of that rubber tree. And so this notion that you get the words for a rubber ball has an Olin root, and Olin is this general kind of motion. It's this bouncing ball, up, boing, 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 yeah? It's undulating, it's oscillating, and the paradigmatic example is the human heart beating, okay? It has a center, and it has 4 stages. It's also exhibited by a respiring chest, by earthquakes, by labor contractions, by the ball in the Mesoamerican ball game going back and forth. And it's also exhibited by the motion of the sun every day. It oscillates over the sky, right? If you think about the sun, it goes like this from winter to summer, solstices, right? It's going like this, changes every time. So you've got this undulating and oscillating going on with the sun. The kind of change, I call it, is horizontal change. That'll become clear why in a minute. Motion change of a 4-fold cyclical completion and transformation within a cycle. Everything that is alive in the 5th age has 4 cycles or 4 stages. For human beings, it can be infancy, childhood, young adulthood, old age/death. Everything that is alive has these stages: mountains, rocks, cities, cotton, chairs. Because everything's alive, and everything that alive is defined in the 5th age by Olin. Olin is the essence, or what they say, the heart. It's the biorhythm of the 5th sun, the 5th age, and all inhabitants of the 5th age. Everything moves in this pattern. It defines the life cycle, or the life-death cycle of everything. So we've got Oline figures. I'll show you. Convey the concept of Oline. They depict the arrangement of time, place, and the existence of the fifth age and the fifth age itself. Here's one of my favorites, the four-petaled flower with a center, right? This depicts Oline motion change. It depicts and it conveys the concept of four-staged, cyclical, right, undulating motion. It's got a center, which is very important because, it's got this notion of being well-centered. So this motion creates a center and it goes around a center. The motion of your heart, the motion of the sun. So this, right, depicts all of that. It gives you the concept of Oline, and it also is a symbol of the fifth age because this is what our world right now is all about. That says it all. Here's the ball court. It also has this sort of fourfold shape. People call the four-petaled flower here a quincunx. It's got four flanges and a center. This one, the center isn't as obvious, but this is from the Codex Borgia. Here we've got another picture from the Codex Borgia of the new fire ceremony. We've got the Maltese, I think that's a Maltese cross, we call, which is a quincunx, which is the paradigmatic a symbol of the fifth age. I'll return to this one too. Here's a game called Patoli, which people liken to Parcheesi, and it also, in playing the game, one imitates the passage of the sun each year. And people try to win and gamble, and they lose themselves into slavery. Here's another symbol for Oline. Is this one better there? We've got the famous calendar stone. At the center of the calendar stone, we've got the Oline glyph, the Oline figure, with Tonatiuh at the center, the sun in the center, and you've got the four stages of the cosmos, but it's at the center of the calendar stone is Oline motion change. Here's the one that's drawn a little bit more clearly. There's another common glyph. Here's another common way of portraying it. This is page 1 from a Codex Feher Very Meilleur, in which this is sort of a cosmogram, a picture of the structure of space and the structure of time. It depicts how time works. The top is east on Mesoamerican maps, so to speak. East is always on top because that's where the sun rises. East is on the top, and then the sun moves counterclockwise from east, north, west, south. And this is a depiction of the structure of space-time, or time-place, as I prefer to call it, because space is not that abstract. And time and place are fused. East is a time-place. It's a place and a time where something happens. And it's defined as that where the sun rises. The Nahuatl word for east is that place from which the sun rises. And west is simply where the sun sets. So the northwest, east, south aren't permanent compass markings in the structure of space-time. They are where things happen. Here's another very commonly seen one from the Codex Mendoza, a post-conquest manuscript. And at the center you've got Tenochtitlan, the capital city of the Aztecs. But they're in the center of this Oline glyph. Okay, number 2 kind of motion change, Malinali. It's the motion change involved in twisting, spinning, gyrating, coiling, and single and double spiraling. It's involved in spinning fiber into thread. It's involved in speaking, eating, digesting, blowing life into things to give them breath, blowing into musical instruments to create music, drilling fire, burning things, burning incense, dancing, and it's very important in heart sacrifice. So there's this idea that by spinning and twisting things, they become ordered. So let's see. That pretty much doesn't fit with ordinary English discourse. We've got this note. Isn't there like a heavy metal band named Twisted Sister? And if you call someone, hey dude, you're twisted, it's, like you're kind of weird and screwed up. To call someone twisted. For the Aztecs, to be twisted is good because it means you've been properly ordered. Think about that raw cotton. You get this raw bowl of cotton, and it's disorderly and it's chaotic and dirty. You clean it, and then you spin it. And you spin it, and in spinning it and gyrating it and helicoidally gyrating it, you turn it into maps, so to speak. East is always on top because that's where the sun rises. East is on the top, and then the sun moves counterclockwise from east, north, west, south. And this is a depiction of the structure of space-time, or time place, as I prefer to call it, because space is not that abstract. And time and place are fused. East is a time place. It's a place and a time where something happens. And it's defined as that where the sun rises. The Nahuatl word for east is that place from which the sun rises. And west is simply where the sun sets. So the northwest, east, south aren't permanent compass markings in the structure of space-time. They are where things happen. Here's another very commonly seen one from the Codex Mendoza, a post-conquest manuscript. And at the center you've got Tenochtitlan, the capital city of the Aztecs. But they're in the center of this Olin glyph. Okay, number 2 kind of motion change, Malinali. It's the motion change involved in twisting, spinning, gyrating, coiling, and single and double spiraling. It's involved in spinning fiber into thread. It's involved in speaking, eating, digesting, blowing life into things to give them breath, blowing into musical instruments to create music, drilling fire, burning things, burning incense, dancing, and it's very important in heart sacrifice. So there's this idea that by spinning and twisting things, they become ordered. So let's see. That pretty much doesn't fit with ordinary English discourse. We've got this note. Isn't there like a heavy metal band named Twisted Sister? And if you call someone, hey dude, you're twisted, it's, like you're kind of weird and screwed up to call someone twisted. For the Aztecs, to be twisted is good because it means you've been properly ordered. Think about that raw cotton. You get this raw bowl of cotton, and it's disorderly and it's chaotic and dirty. You clean it, and then you spin it. And you spin it, and in spinning it and gyrating it and helicoidally gyrating it, you turn it into thread. You order it, and you turn it into something useful. And then, of course, you weave it into fabric. But twisting is a good thing, and it's an essential part of transmitting energy between the cosmos. So it's motion change involved in energy transmission between Olin-defined life-death cycles, between the vertical layers of the cosmos and between different stages in the Olin-defined life-death cycles of the things. So even cotton, raw cotton, has this 4 stages. If I want to feed the cosmos, one of the essential things about heart sacrifice has to do with nourishing and feeding and basically giving a blood transfusion to various parts of the cosmos. A lot of the people sacrifice to the sun. All of that involves getting their blood, twisting it, spinning it in the right sort of way so that you can transmute it, convey it to the sun and give the sun an energy transfusion. So eating involves this. Cooking and digesting are all twisted. They occur in the stomach. The intestines are twisted, and fire is twisted. And all of these, so by twisting things, you prepare energy for transmission to some other thing, to feed it, to nourish it. So Malinali actually plays probably the largest role in all Aztec rituals, because most Aztec rituals are all devoted to feeding Tlaloc, feeding the sun, keeping this cosmic thing going, because it needs to be nourished. It's part of our job as human beings. Okay, here's called the Atlachinoli. There's the word on the bottom. It means water, fire, burnt things. It combines water and fire, and it's a symbol of the 5th age. Here's another one, right? This notion of spinning and coiling. These are symbols of transformation and transmutation. Another one. Here, the center one's called the Xicalcolehuiqui, and then you've got some spirals. They're all symbols of transformation. Here's the bottom of a sculptural depiction of Quetzalcoatl. You see this coiling, and Quetzalcoatl's all about transformation. You've got the Xicalcolehuiqui on the bottom left again. You have a beautiful shield from the Museum of Anthropology. Right? By having a shield in the battlefield, you're pretty much declaring yourself to be an agent of transformation. I'm going to get you, and I'm going to transfuse your blood to the sun. Pretty scary stuff. Here's an offering from the Templo Mayor. You have a spiral, and then in the middle, the 2 twists are Olin. And here's a post-conquest ceramic disc where the Malinali has been in service of, there's a crucifix on top of a pyramid. And if you know your history right, the Spaniards commonly lopped off the tops of pyramids and put churches on top. Okay, Nepantla, the one I want to get to, is this mutually reciprocating back and forth betwixt and betweening, middling, and balancing motion change. And it's typified by, most dramatically, by weaving and by sexual commingling. By sexual commingling and weaving, you're always bringing together two anomics and forming a third thing out of them. Okay? And it's the cosmos is defined in terms of Nepantla motion change. Nepantla, we'll talk about it later maybe, is not the same as liminality in the way that Victor Turner, Gloria Anzaldúa, Mignola, all these other people in border study are talking about. It's not liminality. It's something very different. So the cosmos is all in Nepantla. So you've got this going back and forth and weaving together of things. There we have Nepantla. Tenochtitlan is in the middle of the crossroads. It's where you want to be. It's being well-centered and well-middled. Here you go. The center is where you want to be. You've got a crossroads again. Once again, you've got a crossroads. Once again, you've got crossroads. Well, these are various ways of ordering people's energies before you dispatch them. Okay. So Teot is, one of the ways of talking about Teot is this, is Ome Teot, and there are a variety of different ways in the sources. But it all has to do with, the Ome Teot is basically two deity, or two sacred energy. And Teot resides in this place called Omeyokan, which is time place of duality. And it's a place of constant weaving, or a place of constant sexual commingling. Ome Teot is this male-female figure who is engaged in never-ending sex with itself. It is sexual activity. It is sexual commingling. And weaving is also like, sexual commingling is directly parallel with weaving. Weavers are very sexually charged people. And weaving is the bringing together of two things and forming something else. So, here's how it works. Here's a backstrap weaver. You've got the warp and the weft, right? Here's my own drawing. Did it come out? Yep. Okay. Here's a backstrap loom. Maybe we can. Here's how the cosmos gets woven. You start out from the top, and you have the Malinali forces are vertical, and they come down like this from the heavens and come up from below the earth. And the sun is the weft, and it goes back and forth and back and forth and back and forth like this. It is, right, with a shuttlecock going like this, or with the bobbin going like this, in between the Malinali warp fibers. And all the description of all the weaving utensils are all gendered male or female, and they're all either keyed to Olin or Malinali, right? The activity of the cock going up and down is said a little boat that bobs. And on a boat that bobs, it's an Olin-related word. So you've got the sun is actually weaving the cosmos, right? With these, the warp fibers are coming down. There are the sacred calendars, and this energy is coming down. And then the sun weaves it together like this and creates the fabric of the cosmos, of the fifth age. The layers are pretty much folds in a unified cloth. The word for the verb for counting layers of the cosmos in Nahuatl, there are different count nouns or verbs, and this one is confined to counting things which can be stacked on top of one another, like folded blankets, like tortillas, like sandals. They're the one and the same thing that you stack on top, but they're not different kinds of things. And this is closely modeled. There's a wonderful book by Cordray and Cordray, which has a whole page of these, how Mesoamerican women fold their skirts, because they're very, very too long for them, so they wrap them around themselves. And here you have these folds in a skirt. And it pretty much looks like that. Okay. I guess I probably made it in time.
Yeah, you did.
Okay. Well, sure.